It's so sad that we can't see traditionally very sexy, feminine women and strong, hunky, masculine men in our entertainment anymore. There's always some activist who wants to change these characters and turn them into soy boys or strong, independent women. And now Paul Mescal is bragging that Hollywood is moving away from the traditional alpha male characters. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I primarily talk about the video game industry altering characters and going in the direction of modernity. They decide that they want soy boys to be leads. They want these very dainty, almost feminine male characters to outweigh the now very strong and hunky masculine females. It's very sad that the roles are reversed. Now, I think that gender roles and tropes are perfectly fine in our entertainment. I love seeing a damsel in distress. I would never want them to change Link and Zelda or Mario and Peach. I would never want them to do something like that. But there are always people who are looking to push the limits. And unfortunately, there are so many actors and actresses now who want to change the industry. They want things to be different so that maybe they can get cast into other roles. I mean, look at what happened with someone like Scarlett Johansson. For years, she built a career off of being a bombshell, off of being a super sexy woman. And now that she's gotten a little bit older and she's starting to kind of age out of those like 20-year-old bombshell roles, she's saying, I was overly sexualized and I was always uncomfortable with it. You weren't uncomfortable with it when you were making millions off of it. But now at this year's film festival, Gladiator 2's actor Paul Mescal might have given the most unintentionally revealing quote of the week when commenting on Hollywood and the alpha male characters that once defined it while promoting The History of Sound, a period romance between two men in which he stars alongside Josh O'Connor. The Irish actor confidently proclaimed that cinema is moving away from the traditional alpha leading male characters. Now, if you've been paying attention to the video game industry or Hollywood or what is going on in our entertainment, yeah, they've really been hammering away at this, but it's still unfortunate that all of these actors are willing to say the quiet part out loud, that they're just willing to straight up admit that Hollywood doesn't give a fuck about what defined it. We don't care about that. We just care about modernizing. His remarks came during a press conference for The History of Sound, which I think is so funny given he has just brought so much more negative press to this film and also his acting career. So he talked about this upcoming movie, The History of Sound, that he's in, that follows two men who travel New England recording folk music while discovering a romantic bond. Definitely not a movie for me, and I'm sure not a movie for a lot of you guys, but he talks about like the repression of their sexuality and how frustrating it is and how his film is a celebration between these two men's love. But then he gets into the topic of things like masculinity. I personally don't see the parallels at all. Brokeback is a beautiful film, but it is dealing with the idea of repression. I find those comparisons relatively lazy and frustrating. Our film is a celebration between these men's love, not about the repression of their sexuality. In other words, it's not like those other stories with tragedy and struggle. This one is about softness, stillness, and the joy of 8 jolly ranchers a day. Again, this is not an exaggeration. Mescal spent part of the press conference fondly recounting how he and O'Connor bonded by eating 8 jolly ranchers a day during filming. There is a microcosm to our relationship that I think of Josh and I think of Jolly Ranchers. If that doesn't sum up the industry's evolving view of masculinity, nothing does. Now, I'm not saying every single male character in entertainment needs to be a alpha male. I don't think that every single one needs to be the strong leader, but I think that we need to have at least a 50-50 balance. And right now, the scales are definitely skewed. I mean, we get maybe 20% male characters nowadays who are actually, strong and they're leaders and they act like men. Unfortunately, a big problem with this is also gender swapping. We have seen so many characters that were traditionally males either be gender swapped or there be discussions about them being gender swapped and them being pushed out of the way so that females can take over their roles. Now, luckily, there are a lot of people who have fought back against these ideas, specifically in the case of James Bond, right? Ana de Armas had joined Daniel Craig in calling for 007 to remain male, saying, "Don't make Bond a woman. This is an absolutely terrible decision. There's no need for a female Bond. There shouldn't be any need to steal someone else's character or even desecrate them and take it over. This is a novel and it leads into this James Bond world and this fantasy of the universe where he's at. What I would like is that there be more female roles in the Bond films, even though Bond will continue to be a man or brought to life in different ways, which I think is perfectly fine. You could make alternative pieces of content that have similar characters that just happen to be females, but to replace the men is absolutely ridiculous. We've also seen Jenna Ortega reflecting on gender swapping remakes with female leads. And though it's not exactly the same, what you're basically doing if you do gender swap a male character like James Bond is you are replacing him and you are desecrating his legacy. Jenna Ortega had offered up her opinions on gender swap film remakes with female leads over the past few years. Making gender swap versions of classic films has become increasingly popular. The most notable is the 2016 remake of Ghostbusters, which was abysmal. And in an interview with MTV, she noted that she loves that there are a lot more female leads nowadays, but she does not necessarily want to see more gender swapped spin-offs. Referring to this trend, she says that she doesn't want to see like Jamie Bond. Instead, she would rather see women lead original franchises. And I think that that is a really great quote, something that I, of course, definitely agree with. And to that end, I personally also don't want to see Hollywood's new tropes. I hate them to death. I hate seeing the Abby smashes. This also has to do with video games. The Abby smashes, right? Absolutely loathe seeing that most of the time in my entertainment. I don't want to see bitchy, angry women in all of my entertainment, and I also don't want to see soy boys who look like they can't pick up a shield and a sword in my entertainment all the time. And that is a big reason why we do see so many beloved franchises kind of falling off of a cliff because they decide to modernize, they decide to reboot and readapt and make something for a brand new audience, when really that brand new audience is not going to show up and support you. The article says, let's be clear, there's absolutely room in cinema for vulnerability, complexity, and non-traditional portrayals of male characters. Absolutely. But when actors begin cheerleading the displacement of the classic masculine archetype altogether, that's not evolution, it's eradication. Mescal isn't merely arguing for diversity of stories, he's framing the alpha male, the rugged, dependable, protective archetype as obsolete. Hollywood has been trending in this direction for some time. Gone are the days when action heroes and stoic leaders dominated the big screen, and in their place, conflicted sad boys, hapless tagalongs, and apparently candy-obsessed folk song archivists. So it is very disappointing to hear this, though it's not particularly surprising if you've been paying attention to things like the culture war over the past couple of years. So I'm sure we're going to continue to see actors come out and say things like this and push for this because they realize that they are soy boys, and if there are no more roles for soy boys, they are not going to get any jobs. But I, of course, think that this is a very bad direction for Hollywood to go in. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.